Hello guys, welcome to the Byteness Tech. So in this playlist we are going to learn about Linux from basic to advanced and also the OS concepts and the embedded Linux and the device drivers etc. So in this video we will learn about Linux. Basically what is Linux? So have you ever thought about what is running behind apps like YouTube, Instagram, Google, or even your Android phone? Now, here is a something interesting. You are using it every single day, but you might not know its name properly. And the shocking part is if the system stops working, half of the internet can stop. Sounds dramatic, right? That system called a Linux. But wait, Linux is not exactly what most people think. Let's understand it step by step. So here the confusion starts. The most of the people think about Linux as a complete operating system. So it is not like that. And people also think about like Linux means it's a Linux server, Linux commands. So most of the like the where they heard. So but the real question is what exactly the Linux? Is it an operating system? Is it a software or is it something else? Let's clear this today. So to understand Linux, first we have to understand about kernel. So for understanding kernel, I will give one two analogies, real-time analogies, so that you will be having better understanding. So let's take car. So car has a many parts like engine, steering, seats, etc. So guys, which one is most important part of the in the car? So people says like all parts are important, but here the most important is engine. Without engine, car can't move. So likewise, in the computer system, we will be having kernel as a main important manager part. So first, I will draw this diagram, computer system diagram, so you will be having understanding of how this kernel part of. So I will just draw one diagram, computer system diagram, computer system. So basically it has four parts. One is application. Application which is user level interaction. Let's say apps, Chrome, etc. Next comes OS, kernel, and then we have a hardware. Hardware like which will having RAM, ROM, CPU, etc. So guys, here app cannot directly talk to the hardware, right? Something must manage everything. So that's something we call it as a kernel. So here you got the better understanding of the kernel. Let me take one more real-time analogy. Let's say imagine a hotel. Okay. So let's say customer come and ask for a services like a room or a food, any help. But customer don't manage everything directly, right? There is a manager in between. So that manager decides everything. In the same way, application cannot directly control hardware. So they request the kernel, then kernel manages this hardware. So basically kernel responsible for mainly, let's say, one is CPU management and second memory management and file system and then controlling the device control, next process handling. So you just note down the points. We will learn in a deeper into this topic in our upcoming videos. So basically kernel is a manager for the system. I hope guys you got better understanding about kernel and the importance of the kernel. So now we'll come to our main question, what is Linux? So Linux is actually an kernel. But in real life, we don't use only a kernel. As we know, car, we can't use only engine. For car, we need steering, etc., etc., right? So likewise, for the real time, we use kernel along with some extra things. So that we call it as operating system. So kernel used along with, let's say, tools, shell, some applications, so to form one one complete working system. So this we call it as a Linux operating system. So Linux operating system is not only a Linux, it has tools, shell, applications. Combined we call it as a one operating system. So I can draw like this: OS equal to Linux kernel plus shell, you can call it as terminal or a GUI, etc., plus applications. So technically Linux equal to kernel, right? But commonly uses like Linux as an operating system, which we have to think about, like internally it will have tools, shell, applications, etc. So guys, now we will understand about the history of Linux. So before getting into history of Linux, I want to explain the history of Unix first. I will tell you why I am going into Unix now. So before Linux, there was a Unix. Basically, it is also an operating system. It is powerful, it was powerful, stable, used in many universities and companies. But the problem is, it was not a free. Okay. And also, guys, it was expensive and controlled, as it is not an free, so it was controlled by one community, you can call. So that's why Linux came into picture. So now we will understand Linux origin story. Okay. So in 1991, a student named Linux Torvalds, he started building his own system. His goal was simple, creating something like Unix, but it should be free. So he created a kernel and he named it as a Linux. So why this Linux came into picture, right? Name. So Linux is basically Linux plus Unix. So combinedly he named it as a Linux. And it started as a small project, but today it powers the entire world. Okay, so basically where this Linux is used in a real world case, used where? Okay, so basically guys, Linux is everywhere and you are already using it daily. So let's say Android phones, right? So Android phones uses Linux, right? And it also used in the internet servers which is used by YouTube, Google, Amazon, Facebook, etc. And it's also used in cloud systems like AWS, Azure, etc. And it also mostly it is used in embedded systems like examples cars, routers, smart TVs, refrigerator, etc., etc., and even supercomputers. So yes, guys, Linux is everywhere. So why industry loves this Linux? Now, why do companies love this Linux? So simple reason is free, open source. You can get anywhere this Linux code. You can understand. You can have your own fixes also into the Linux. Okay, and it is very secure. It's the main reason for the Linux, and it is stable, and it works on everything for small devices to big servers. That's why industry is depending on it. So guys, simple final understanding is, let's simplify everything. So Linux is not just a system, it is the foundation of modern computing. Without Linux, websites, apps, cloud systems, servers, everything will struggle. So that the powerful it is. So final summary is, today we learnt about Linux is an kernel. Kernel is like a engine for a system. Unix came before the Linux. Linux was created by Linus Torvalds, and Linux used everywhere in the real industry. And most importantly, you use it daily without even noticing. So in the next video, we'll understand how Linux actually works internally using some architectural diagrams. So guys, if you liked this explanation, like, share, subscribe. Thank you.